Hello and welcome to this tutorial on simple linear regression by Analytics School Online. Hope you enjoy this session and get deeper insight into the functioning and application of the simple linear regression model. In part 1 of this series, we have fundamentally established the concept of regression, its requirements to be applied to a data set, and all the other theoretical aspects of the model. Today, in part 2, we plan to implement and execute this model in Microsoft Excel to understand it practically and with greater knowledge of the real-world applications of this model. I expect you to already have seen part 1 of this tutorial, as some of the concepts and keywords of this topic have already been described in brief there. Just a small note, a simple linear regression model is a very basic model and can be implemented on various platforms supporting different languages such as Python, R, and some other statistical softwares. But here we are choosing Excel as it is quick and easy to implement the model in it. And you will see how easy Excel makes it for us. And so without wasting any more time, let's do this, let's get started. So we have our brand new Excel sheet here. We start by first installing the data analysis toolkit, as you can see right here. The data analysis toolkit, which you can import or add from this options bar here where you go to add-ins, and simply, as I've already installed this analysis tool pack, so it is appearing in my active applications. For you it would appear somewhere in the inactive application add-ins. So you should just select this analysis tool pack here, like I'm selecting this, and simply press go. Once you're done with it, you'll see that the analysis tool pack would appear in your active application add-ins, and you can simply press OK and get started. And just to know if you've done it right, the data part of this, for example, if you go to the data section, you'll see that this data analysis tab appears right away. And earlier it would not have been seen in your Excel sheet, but now after installing the add-in, you'll see the data analysis toolkit. So we've started with the installation of the data analysis toolkit, which is a must-have to implement various statistical and analytical models in Excel. Now after that, we simply try to import our data set. So we go from here to from text, and from text I'll just select the location where I have kept my regression data, and here it is. So we import it. Now make sure that you select this part of the data very correctly, because this is the place where you actually define how your data is going to be represented on the Excel sheet. You can see here is a tab called delimited. The characters such as commas or tabs separated each field. So since we know that we have imported from a CSV file, which is a comma separated value file, we simply press delimited here and click next. After clicking next, we just select the delimiter that we have, which is comma in our case, and you can see that the data is being previewed in the right way we want it to be previewed. And we then just click finish, and we exist for our existing worksheet, we implement from here and we press OK. So you can see here that our data set has been imported. We have our various values of X and Y already being seen here. Let us first try to understand the data set. Well, these are basically two values of X and Y which we have been given, and we have a lot of observations. They are around like 300 or like 301 observations for various values of X and Y. And what we need to do here is we need to create a simple linear regression model for the independent variable X and the dependent variable Y. We might also call it the feature variable and the predictor variable. And let's assume that this data set, as we can see, is our independent data set. So we type independent here and simply select it this way. Now the Y variable is our dependent variable, so we'll write dependent here. And let's know a little bit more about the data set. So here in the data set, we are comparing the values of cost price of a certain product and the sales price of that product. for different values of the cost price, we have different values of the sales price. Sometimes you're going in a good profit, like for example from 77 to 79, 21 to 23, 22 to 25, and sometimes you're also facing loss, like in this column, in this row right here, 20 and 17. So you can see that we bought it at a larger price and we've sold it at a lesser price than we expect. Same for here, we 15 and 9.8, so here we are facing a loss. So as you remember from our part 1 series of this simple linear regression model, we need to first plot the x and the y axis, the independent and the dependent variable, in a scatter plot to check if there exists a linearity between these two, because linearity, as we know, is the first condition for the existence of a regression model. So now what we do is we go to the insert button here and we simply select the scatter plot option right here, and just so easy what Excel has made it for us. We've simply selected the scatter plot and Excel has already logically chosen the independent as well as the dependent variables and simply plotted our scatter plot right over here. As we can see, this is the y dependent variable part, and we can see this is the x dependent variable part and this is the y dependent part. X is independent and y is dependent. So we can see that there exists a great deal of linearity between our data points. Our data set is highly linear, and with an increasing value of x, we are getting a constant increase, almost a constant increase in the value of y. So therefore we can proceed with our model, as we've already established the condition for linearity in our model. So proceeding further, now what do we have to do? Now we have to try to fit this data set into our regression model. So we zoom out a little bit and keep the model right here. Just a second. So we've created our plot and we simply paste it right over here to just keep in mind that our data is linear and we don't have to worry about its variability. So we go to this part, data, and as we added our data analysis tool pack, we simply select the data analysis button, and from here we search the model we are trying to find, and there it is, regression model, and we press OK. So now let's look into it, what it's asking from us. This is the input y range. As we've already been told, y range is our dependent variable, response variable, or our predictor variable, the value which has to be predicted in the future. So we select this column, and from this we simply select the whole column of the y, or our dependent variable column. We select it till we have all the data points that are available to us. So here it is, and we press OK. So as you can see, we have already got our y input range. Now let's select our x input range. So we go back to the top, and here it is, we are selecting our x column, our independent variable column, and here we have selected it. Now let me make sure that I tell you this, that in this regression application via Excel, if you are selecting the topmost row, which is not basically a data set or a data value, which is basically an announcement of dependency or independency of the variables, or if in multiple linear regression, as we'll study later, we'll have lots of independent variables and very few dependent variables, like we'll just have one dependent variable and lots of x independent variables. So we are going to select the input range of x together for all the independent variables we have, and the y dependent variable will always be singular. It is always just one dependent variable, and we can have two or more or many independent variables. So what I was telling you before is that if you have the first row, which are names of the columns that you have, you must make sure to click on this labels icon. As we have already selected labels, it will make Excel understand that the first row is consisting of the labels of our data set, and those are not output values. And we can make the summary of our regression model. As you will see that this regression box or the regression part of the data analysis toolkit will give us the summary of our data set. So we can do a lot of things in predicting the output. We can simply select the output range where we want to actually show our output. Like if I select this region, our output would be specifically displayed in this region. Or you can select a new workbook, a new worksheet if you want to display the results. Simultaneously, you can also plot various kinds of graphs, such as the residuals graph, as we've discussed in part 1, standardized residuals, residual plots, line plots, and various others. You can also plot the normal probability, but that's just too advanced for us right now. So we are done with this. We'll simply press OK, and here it is. And here it is. We've had our summary, and here, as you can see, we can simply try to enlarge these columns to better suit our model, so that we can look better into it and we can observe what are the various parameters that have been given by our model. Now basically we've tried to get the summary of our values, and here you can see, let us observe, this is the multiple R parameter which we'll discuss in the part 3 of this video. And we have the R square parameter, the adjusted R square, and the standard error. We have the total number of observations that we have the analysis of variance table, the regression, the various degrees of freedom, the sum of squares, the mean sum of squares, and many such. Now out of all these, the most important column is this column. As you can see, it is giving us the coefficients of our model. As you might already remember from the part 1 of this video, that coefficients are the factors that we multiply with the different independent variables. Like we have the x independent coefficient, so the coefficient of x in our simple linear regression model as given by our summary is 1.014335355, and our intercept value is simply minus 0.461810774. So we have got the parameters of our model from this summary, and once we know the parameters of our model, we can simply plot a line between it and we can create our predictor for the whole model. So I think you've understood that we've already got the values we needed, and we can simply proceed with the prediction or the making of our model in the next video. So let's just copy these values to our data and simply use them in the next tutorial. So until then, keep analyzing. Thank you.